Welcome to episode 242 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio, the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary, by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who spends part of his spare time looking closely at sculptures, John Scott Sloat.
Sculptures are important.
Yes, they
important
are.
Artifacts in our society.
Especially ones that are displayed on our campus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here we are, John. It's middle of August.
Yeah, students welcome weekend this weekend.
Yeah. So we record on we're actually in the studio on our normal Monday afternoon rotation.
Yep.
And so students will be arriving. Well, first year students arrive this upcoming Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then returning students can start moving in. Is it Sunday or Monday? Something like that.
Something like that. I'm not totally sure. Not my world anymore.
That's right.
Not my world.
And you are completely removed from it, right? You're not even doing the hike this year.
I'm not doing the hike this year.
Okay.
I go to Welcome Weekend for like 2 hours, work the alumni booth with our alumni director.
Okay. Say
Say hello to alumni
that
are bringing their children, which is always fun.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, man, it's crazy to think that we're almost ready to start school, but we're starting much later this year.
Are we?
It's like 5 days later.
Any particular
Based
reason
on
for that?
somehow it's because the calendar falls a certain way or something.
Goodness.
I don't know. There's a math thing involved there that's not my department.
Yeah. Could that be the math department? Or the calendar? Probably academic affairs, right?
Sure. Well, no, I'm on the academic affairs committee, and
you don't set the calendar, huh?
No. You overestimate. You among many overestimate my significance, and maybe even the significance of the academic affairs committee on campus here. So, anyway, it'll be the start of year 19 for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're pretty close to getting a free gift.
Yeah, you get to every 5 years, get to the 20 mark. That'll be the next set of
nice
options, whatever that'll be.
Nice. Did you ever think when you started here you'd be here for nearly 20 years?
I don't know that I thought about it much, to be honest.
Okay. It wasn't like the goal, though.
I mean, I didn't come here thinking I'm going to spend 20 years here. Because I didn't know what the place was like. I mean, anytime you take a new job and you move into a new organization – you don't know what the organization's like. And, I mean, to be honest, the organization today is different from what it was 18 years ago when I was starting up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have no plans to go anywhere.
Okay.
We'll see.
Thanks for going on the record about that.
I said I have no plans. Plans can change. Opportunities present themselves. Who knows? If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can find us on X at VNS Pod. Email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star rating. All right, John, let's talk some sports. And I just remembered in the intro something that we said we would talk about on social media in the sports segment.
Oh, yes.
We
that's
almost
right.
forgot.
We did almost forget.
Yes, thanks to Aaron in Warsaw.
Yeah. So do you want to outline this? Do you want me to outline this?
Go for it.
Okay. So
you probably know more about it than I do.
So I actually don't know that much about it. But my understanding is the NAIA, and I think college sports more broadly
NCAA
than that.
as well, yeah.
Recently, it's maybe a couple months old now.
Could be, yeah.
They have said, hey, you can start putting corporate sponsorships on your jerseys, much like NBA certainly does this. I mean, soccer's the famous one for this, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's right across the chest on soccer.
Yeah. But in terms of American sports leagues, the NBA was out in front on this.
Yes, the NBA was first. And so Grace College is the first school in the country, as far as we know, to ink a deal with a corporate sponsor. And so the fine people over at Zimmer Biomet have put their Z on all our jerseys.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal looks like.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers.
But I think that's pretty forward-thinking, pretty innovative.
Yeah, as long as, and it looks like from what I've seen in the graphics, it doesn't look like it's a large decal. Like that's my only concern with these is like if it becomes so large that you're like the soccer director.
Yeah,
I don't want to see Emirates
yeah.
across the chest of the uniform.
Yeah. So because I'm an American sports fan and I expect that to be the team name across the chest,
yes.
right? I would watch soccer and be like, that's a weird name for a team, Emirates.
Yeah. Yes. So and it's on all of our all athletic uniforms.
I believe
right?
all athletic uniforms.
So soccer, basketball, volleyball, the whole gamut. Okay. Hey, I mean, I think that's a great way to bring in some additional revenue for the institution. I mean, especially at our level of athletics, it's not like we're a D1 Big Ten school that's just swimming in money. Mm-hmm. So when our teams, make national tournaments, there's not always institutional money easily available to help buy the plane tickets and to put them up in hotels and that sort of thing. And so
that's right.
The coaches end up having to go out and raise money for their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure this will not take that away, but it certainly helps, right, to help fund the athletic program a little bit and give them – I mean, let's be honest. We have here at Grace a great relationship with Zimmer Biomet.
Mm-hmm.
The basketball arena that we play in is the Manahan Orthopedic Capital Center.
That's right.
And so Zimmer, at the time it would have been two separate companies, Zimmer and Biomet separately, contributed money towards the construction of that building. And
that's right.
Now they are one company, and they remain a great partner here with Grace.
Yeah, we like them a lot. We like Zimmer Biomet a lot.
There you go. And Zimmer Biomet, if you're listening and you'd like to sponsor a podcast, we would be very open
absolutely
to entering into some sort of negotiations about what that would look like.
100%. Would love that.
Yeah. So just hit us up, and we would be happy to promote your latest products even.
Yeah.
As part of that.
I'll promote some hips.
Surgical instruments, you name it.
Yeah.
We'll work it in.
Additive manufacturing. Have you read about additive manufacturing? Anyway, let's move on. I probably don't need to get into it.
I have not. There's not a ton going on in the sports world right now. We're kind of waiting for the football season really to start. I mean, baseball's going on. You want to give a quick update on your Mets before
So the Mets are sort of sitting outside the playoffs looking in right now. They're a game or two back in the wild
in the
card.
hunt then. Yeah.
Very much in the hunt. So it's fun watching baseball. Every game feels like it matters right now.
Yeah.
It's fun watching baseball that really matters.
Okay. Good.
So, yep.
So since we don't have a ton of big sports news going on, we thought it'd be good for us to talk a little bit about our expectations for the upcoming football season.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Well, I think let's start with your – we'll have you start with your JETS, Jets.
Okay.
You can give us an update on what's been going on preseason-wise, storylines, expectations.
Truth be told, as far as I can tell, no one is really playing in the preseason. No starters are playing in the preseason. It's all practice squad guys and all second or third string guys. So no first stringers are really getting out there.
Well, there's no chance that Aaron Rodgers is setting foot on that field in a preseason game.
No. They do play the Giants this upcoming week, so in the preseason. Maybe he gets on the field because you'd like to get him out there before week 1, I think. Maybe for a series, but maybe not. But the hope is, that all the expectations are we're going to have a really good season. I would like one of the top seeds in the AFC this season.
When you say top seeds, you think top 3?
Top 3.
Okay.
Top 3 is what I want to see.
Okay.
So win the division, and I'd like a bye if possible.
Well, isn't it now only
it's
the one?
Just the one seed,
okay,
yes.
Gets the bye. Yeah.
Yes. But I've seen a number of places that put us number 2 in the AFC behind the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. So, with Aaron Rodgers, we've revamped our offensive line this offseason.
Okay.
We have good wide receiver weapons. We have a very good defense, despite Hassan Reddick, requesting a trade, and
that's still going on. We talked about that last week.
Yes, still going on. I believe he's being fined $300,000 a day or something like that.
Paying that. There's no way he will end up paying that.
No. So all that to say, expectations are high this year. Mm-hmm. If they don't make the playoffs again, I think everybody gets fired. And
yeah.
But if Aaron Rodgers is healthy all season, even if he's not healthy, it's just a team.
Because it's now 7 teams in each conference make it, right? Or is it still 6? It'd have to be 7. If only the one gets the bye.
4 and 3, yeah.
Yeah. 4 divisions, 3 wild cards. Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay.
So, high hopes for the Jets season this year.
Okay. All right.
Top 3 seed, and I'd prefer a bye.
So, give me a ballpark on the record.
I think 12.
So 12 and 5.
12 and 5.
This is where you got into trouble last year with your math skills.
That's why I just said 12.
17 games instead of 16. Yes.
I think that was 2 years ago now.
Was that 2?
I think that was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I haven't looked in depth at the schedule or anything, but I think 12 wins would get us the division, certainly.
So, I mean, in the AFC East, both Buffalo's obviously really good.
I think they've crested and are on the decline now.
And the Dolphins were good last year.
Dolphins were good last year. They've also have lost some players, and I believe they're on the decline as well.
All right.
So I think it's – now, obviously, we're going to lose one to the Patriots at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But –
Yeah. Yeah, though, I mean – they're not the same now that Belichick is not coaching there.
No.
I mean, they're still the Patriots in one sense, but I think now that there's been a full year where he's not coached, right? Last year he did not coach was it last year?
Last year was his last year.
It was, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boy, that feels like forever ago, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. So they're not the same. Like, I mean, that feels like that really is the end of the era. Mm-hmm. You had the Brady era, and then you had a few more years after that with Belichick, never really seeing any success without Brady. And now Belichick is gone.
Yeah. And nowhere. Like, he wanted to coach, and nowhere would hire him.
Well, but it wasn't that because he also wanted, like, front office control.
I think so. That's probably part of it, yeah.
I
think he's very difficult to work with.
It's not that nobody wanted – it's not that nobody was interested in having him coach. It's just, I think, the whole package of letting him have front office – some level of control was off the table for most organizations.
Yeah, and he's been on social media traveling around with a 26, 27-year-old girlfriend. Have you seen this on social media? Yeah,
no.
It's just weird. It's just like, you're an old man.
Yeah, that is officially weird.
Yeah, it's just been a strange. He's a weird dude.
Yeah, he's odd. Okay, so in the AFC then, you're thinking Chiefs, probably the 1 seed.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Chiefs are probably the 1 seed.
Okay.
I think that's a fair.
Seems like a good assumption.
And then I think I don't know who to go with other than the Jets. I mean, the Ravens are always very good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Bengals were good 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Do they come back with a healthy Joe Burrow and
maybe
figure some things out? I don't know.
Trying to think through all the AFC divisions now.
In the West, like who's good in the AFC West?
I think the Broncos will be okay,
but not that level.
I don't think the San Diego Chargers will be great.
No.
Raiders. I just don't see it. They just named a quarterback.
Yeah. So that division then is what? It's Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, and who's the fourth? It's the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, yeah.
Yeah.
The South, Colts.
They should be better.
Yeah. Jaguars.
Yeah.
Titans.
The Texans. They made the playoffs last year.
They still feel really young.
Yeah.
Is there a sophomore slump for their quarterback?
I don't know. Hope not. I mean, he threw 5 picks last year. That's it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then in the East, Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. Mm-hmm. Talked about them. And then in the North, Bengals, Steelers, Browns, Ravens.
Yeah, what do you make of the Browns?
I have no idea.
I don't think anybody has any idea. Really.
I just have no clue. Who's their quarterback? I mean, I know they paid through the nose for
I assume it's going to be Watson.
Yeah. And they have a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll win you some games.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, should be pretty wide open. How about this? Let's table our discussion of Ohio State for next week because we're already getting close to our general window of time.
To our sports buffer here.
Yeah, and I don't want to do I don't want to go rushed through the Ohio State season. So, like game by game breakdown, or maybe not. So, yes. So.
What do you think? Do you think my 12-5 prediction is number 2 in the AFC? Do you think that's out of the question?
Out of the question, no. Unlikely, yes. I think they'll make the playoffs.
Who do you like better than the Jets?
I still like the Bills better. And again, I think I'm looking at history. Mm-hmm. And the history suggests that the Jets regularly underperform expectations.
Sure.
That's really it.
That's true.
Like on paper, I'm not denying. On paper, they're one of probably the 3 best teams in the AFC.
Yeah.
But again, they just historically underperform expectations. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even, even allowing, even sort of bracketing out injuries, which, how fragile is Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. He's
got to get hit.
Yeah. So who knows what that's going to look like? But, injuries are always the big factor, right?
Yeah.
You have teams that look good, but then you have a quarterback who goes down, and then suddenly you go from thinking you're going to be 12-5 to being
that was last year,
5-12,
right? I mean, it was September 11th. Aaron Rodgers runs out of the tunnel with the American flag.
Yeah,
3 snaps in, we lose him for the season. We're a 500 team.
Yeah, what a world we live in,
man. MetLife, what a field.
Yeah, you'd think New York City could do better.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Alas.
They want to do concerts there. That's the real reason. Easier to roll stages out on turf than grass.
Sure, but there are different kinds of turf as well.
That's very true.
We don't have to just stay in the age of it's concrete with a thin layer of foam and then some green-looking carpet. Like we can do better than that.
Yeah.
So. Anyway. All right, John, you ready to move on?
Sure.
Today we are continuing our discussion about, from the report State of the Bible, how people feel about the church. And so last week we looked at church positives. And so this week John has insisted we go negative.
Skew negative. We're skewing negative this week.
All right, well.
We need clicks.
Yeah.
We need the negative clicks.
That'll do it. That's for sure. All right. So this section talks about basically different factors that drive people away from the church or make them less eager to get involved. So you want to start just with in general here, John, some of the things that they highlight here, but before we break it down by generation, gender, etc.
Yeah. You mean the experiences that decrease church
experiences that decrease church participation.
Okay, so they break it off into several broad categories and then put none of the above at the bottom. So the first one, exclusion or cliques within the faith community.
Okay.
Judgment or
you're going to give numbers for those?
I can. Okay. So exclusion or cliques within the faith community is 20%. Mm-hmm. 20% of people, I suppose, not participating or participating less. Name that as a reason.
Yes. Yeah. Does this section includes people who are not affiliated with a church, though, right? So this is not – this is the big, broad category, isn't that right? Or is this just people somehow connected with the church?
No, this is on the previous page. The question was asked of everyone whether they indicated any church background or not.
There you go. Yeah, so this is broad.
Very, very broad. The second category, judgment or condemnation for my belief or lifestyle choices, which was 19%.
So, yeah, just 1 point behind.
Yeah, roughly 1/5 of people feel that way. Mm-hmm. Disagreement with faith communities, biblical teaching, or social commentary. That could be coupled with the previous one a little bit, but 18%.
Yep.
Then financial improprieties or exploitation within a faith community, and that was 14%. Conflicts with a faith community that were not resolved satisfactorily, 12%. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I have not received sufficient spiritual care when I needed it, 7%. I have not felt safe in the church, temple, or faith community, 5%. Mm-hmm. And then none of the above was 52% of participants.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, what I'm struggling to figure out what other categories might be. Or is it just, I have no interest in going to church, so none of those things were actually relevant to my answer? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be that none category that pops up so much, that people talk so much about.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you make of that list? Anything stick out to you as strange other than the none of the above?
I mean, those top three are, essentially even. Mm-hmm. Exclusion or cliques, judgment or condemnation for my beliefs, and then disagreement with the faith community's biblical or social teaching. I don't know. One thing that I don't see here, hypocrisy. That's a common sort of cultural charge that you hear that's kind of thrown out there of like, oh, I can't go to church. There's a bunch of hypocrites there.
Yeah.
I don't see that represented here in terms of – maybe they just didn't ask the right question. So I'm not I don't know what to make of that, whether that's – again, I think that can be a smokescreen. But in any case, I guess I would have expected maybe to see that on there.
Interesting.
What about demographics here?
You want to talk by generation?
Yeah. So Gen Zs and millennials are more likely than older groups to report judgment or condemnation for their belief or lifestyle.
I don't think that's surprising.
Yeah, I agree.
I think one of the more I don't know how interesting it is, but exclusions or cliques within the faith community, millennials and boomers are the highest. And Gen Z is actually the lowest. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that? That's weird. They're not low by a ton. It's 4 points, 5 points.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. Other than, I don't know, maybe this would explain the Gen Z being low, but it doesn't explain the boomers. Maybe it does. Anyway, I think in general.
Excuse me, I said boomers. I meant Gen X. Gen X and millennials are the highest.
Gen X and millennials. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
That's my bad.
Gen X and millennials have the highest percentage of negative experience with exclusion or cliques within the church. Part of me wonders if that's a reflection of it's just easier to make friends when you're young. Mm-hmm. Like Gen Z, we're talking about essentially college age.
Yeah.
And early post-college age, probably, right? We've talked about this in general. The older you get, the harder it is to make good friends. And so I wonder if that's reflected in this in these numbers as well that, millennials being older than Gen Z have a harder time making friends, and so they feel like they can't crack into the social networks or groups of people within the local church. Same even for Gen X folks. And then with boomers being the lowest.
I have a theory about this.
Go for it.
So I've noticed as boomers age and retire, a number of them are like joining Bible studies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The number of people that are boomers that are like, well, I have my Bible study. I have my moms that I meet with the moms for prayer. I am a part of a tennis club. They're just like they're just constantly connected. I think because they have the time and resources now in life to be really connected in ways they haven't earlier in life.
Fair. I think that's fair. What about the judgment or condemnation for my beliefs or lifestyles? That's where you had Gen Z and millennials.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I do think some of that's generational.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of it's not that I think both Gen X and boomers especially can maybe be a little bit more traditionalist in their approach to things. And so, when Gen Zers come along or millennials have positions of influence or authority in the church and they start, well, we're not going to do this way anymore. It's like, boom, criticism from the old crowd. What do you mean we're not doing that? Why aren't we doing more? What do you mean we're doing contemporary worship songs? Why aren't we only doing hymns? Some of that I think can be just generationally explained.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it, though, I do think probably has a basis in reality in that, as a general rule, Gen Z and millennials tend to probably be a little bit less definitive and firm on some issues that will bring about criticism from boomers and Gen X folks. That they see it as departures, not just from, well, I don't like that you added a guitar to the service, but like, no, you're squishy on sexual morality now. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, I read this question and I thought, oh, Gen Z and millennials, they're the most likely to say, I identify this way, now accept me as I am.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I was reading that into that question a little bit more and seeing it that way.
That can be, for sure.
More than Gen X or boomers.
Yeah. Let's talk about gender. Church negatives by gender.
Yeah, what'd you make of this? This was weird.
Well, let's start with the first one there in terms of exclusion or cliques within the faith community. 23% of men identified that as a negative experience, and then 20% of women.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised it's not more of a gap between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
I think in general it feels like men have a harder time connecting with people at church than women do. That's my sense.
Yeah. I think that's probably fair.
So I think I probably expected more of that. I don't know.
Yeah, although, when you think about creating cliques or you think about that, not to be, you got to be good at making friends in order to make a clique. And
right.
I think women are generally better at making friends. And so they're maybe more prone or likely, just based on volume, to be cliquish or exclusionary.
Wow.
Do you think that was too harsh?
Wow.
Or was that very diplomatic of me?
I'm just stunned you went there. Mr. Avoid saying anything controversial.
Was that too intense?
I mean,
was that too controversial? I didn't think I thought I just repackaged what you said pretty much and put a different spin on it.
You didn't. But yeah, I don't know that I disagree with you. I really don't think I do. Here's the thing. I think we live in a culture where anytime you start making comments about sins that are more common among one gender than the other, you immediately get pushback from a certain crowd. Like if you say women tend to be more prone towards fill in the blank, and then you say, well, men tend to be more prone towards fill in the blank.
My argument is women are good at making friends. That's a positive message.
Yes, but then you went the next level and said, and therefore they can be more exclusionary.
By law of numbers, by law of large numbers, you're just going to have more opportunity to be exclusionary and cliquish.
All right.
You're still uncomfortable with this.
I'm not uncomfortable with it. I'm just stunned that you said it. That's all.
But all that to say, virtually in all these categories except the last two, men have a higher outcome, slightly higher outcome. And I think that's a big takeaway.
That's where I was going with that. The next move here is that in all of these categories, whether it's cliques, whether it's judgment, whether it's disagreement about biblical teaching, whether it's financial improprieties, conflicts within the faith community not being resolved well, spiritual manipulation or abuse within the faith community, which that one surprised me. I think I would have expected a higher number, women to have a higher number on that than men.
Yep.
It's 12 to 11, so it's not a massive difference.
Well, and it's always 1 to 3 on these categories. There's always a 1% to 3% difference.
Yeah, so very close. The only categories where women scored higher is I haven't received sufficient spiritual care and I've not felt safe in the church. And both of those are within 1 or 2 points. So I hesitate to say that's even a statistically significant difference. But the other ones, the men are, 3 to 5, typically 3 to 5 with a few 1s and 2s in there, higher. So, all right, we need to move forward here. Let's see. Getting to the cities here.
Yep.
Selected church negatives by community type. What stood out to you here? Again, same categories of cliques, judgment, etc.
Big cities don't like churches.
Okay. And yes, they consistently across – is it all the categories? Yeah. Well, they only do
4 of them. Here.
Yeah. They are consistently the highest in terms of reporting experiencing these things. Why do you think that is? Actually, I'm sorry. Under exclusion or cliques, you had the suburbs with a 1-point win.
If we can call it a win. I think the suburbs are pretty cliquish, so that probably makes some more sense to me.
Yeah, I agree.
But overall, I don't know how to phrase this. I think big cities are probably more prone to stereotypes of churches. Mm-hmm. That's really what it seems like most of these questions are based off of. Yeah. Like, hey, the church is exclusionary or cliquish, or they're really judgment-oriented, or there's fiscal problems going on, or manipulation or abuse, Yeah. And large cities, I think, tend to believe those at a higher rate than the smaller groups. Maybe because you would know the parishioners, or you would know a priest or a pastor of a local town.
Well, yeah, I would think. The rural areas, you would think, and again, not that rural areas can't be cliquish. Of course, they can.
They most certainly are.
Yeah. But in a context where basically pretty much everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
At least at some level. You may not know them well, but you would think that maybe that would be less. But just because you know people doesn't mean that you're part of their little in-group, so to speak. Yeah. Let's see here. By scripture engagement,
this one's sort of all over the map for me.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yes, I don't know what to do with that data, to be honest.
So basically, what the struggle we're having is there's Bible disengaged, movable middle, and Scripture engaged, And there are categories like exclusionary or cliques where Bible engaged and Bible disengaged are the same level.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some, like conflicts within a faith community, Bible engaged is much higher.
Yeah.
Now, I assume that's because they're part of a faith community and have more opportunities. Again, there's a law of large numbers problem, right?
Sure.
However, there are some where Bible disengaged is much higher, judgment or condemnation or disagreement with the faith community's biblical teaching, stuff like that.
Yeah. I want to get to the online versus in-person stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time here, but we want to make sure we get to that.
Okay.
So in terms of so the categories they break down, so again, you got the same – well, you got three essentially negative categories, right? The judgment, financial improprieties, and spiritual manipulation. And they broke it down by people who attend in person, who attend online, and then who are listed as both equally.
2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
I guess, yeah. So what stands out to you there?
I mean, in these three categories at least, in-person seems to drive those things down.
Yeah.
And I think even having a combination of both brings those negative feelings down.
Yeah, at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Where online is definitely the highest in all these categories.
Yeah. I guess my question is if you are only participating in a church online, how do you know that the people are judgmental or condemning of your beliefs? Or that there's like – I feel like some of these things like how do you even experience that if you're not like actually showing up?
Yeah. Maybe there's past experience that they're acting upon and that's the reason they're online versus in person. I don't know.
And then there's a section on volunteers here where which – you know, it makes sense that people who volunteer within the church probably here it is, yes. So 64% of church volunteers value the worship and ceremonies of the church compared to 21% of non-volunteers. 40% value the church's community service and outreach compared to 11% of non-volunteers. That one makes imminent sense to me. Like if you're actively serving in the church, then you probably, are invested to the point of you value it more. 20% have experienced unresolved conflicts compared to 10% of non-volunteers, which that also makes sense to me because the more involved you are, the more interaction you have with people,
the more conflict,
and the more potential you have. And especially in a volunteering context, if there's disagreements on we should do this, no, we should do that. I don't like how you're doing this. No, we always do it that way. Why don't we try something new? Like all those dynamics come into play from volunteering and like being involved in actually doing things as opposed to just showing up on Sunday mornings and walking out. So none of that really surprises me in terms of the difference. But do any of those numbers surprise you, that 64, 40, and 20 number for volunteers?
I don't think so. Volunteers, I think, have a little bit more buy-in, and they clearly want to be there more. And therefore they have better they see a better version of the church than people in the peanut gallery.
Yes, indeed. Any final takeaways on those sort of church negatives? I struggle with the whole clique thing. Not that they don't exist. They absolutely do.
Yeah.
I just wonder sometimes if people who don't have great relational skills think that a group might be cliquey when it's their awkwardness that's kind of preventing them from being included.
Sure.
There are certainly cliques in churches. I'm not denying that at all. But I think some of that can just be the nature of groups of people in general.
Yeah. And there's some people that are like I know some people that go to church, nobody talks to them. They're upset, nobody talks to them. I look at them at church, and they sit in the back and they scowl.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't approach you either.
Yeah.
So, I think there's some.
But there's something to be said, though, about I do think churches and pastors need to try to find ways to cultivate a friendliness about their church and about their people, right? That there should be instruction, encouragement, and modeling by church leaders of seeking out new people. I don't recognize that person. I should go talk to them.
There's might be Rebecca McLaughlin. She says she said on Twitter the other day that her husband has rules for church, and one of the rules is an alone person is an emergency. And there's something about me that really likes that, right?
Yeah.
That that somebody on their own needs to be engaged by somebody.
Yes. Now, as an introvert, there's also part of me that's sympathetic with people can try too hard, can come on too strong, and overwhelm people who are more reserved, more introverted.
Yes.
And,
Well, this is where you have to be socially aware. And just because you're extroverted does not make you socially aware.
Oh, that's 100% true.
But being extroverted makes you think that you're socially aware.
Oh, yeah.
Or can make you think you're socially aware when you're not.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's more that could be said on that, but
that's next week's episode.
well, we'll see. Social awareness among extroverts.
Extroverts and their lack of social awareness. Why introverts are better at being socially aware.
Yeah, there you go. Something like that. All right, John, we need to move on. So time now for this day in sports history.
All right, this day in sports history.
August 20th.
August 20th.
I keep forgetting to update the show notes.
August 20th, 2024. Here we are.
Yeah.
1920, American Professional Football Association forms. Jim Thorpe is installed as the president, later to become the NFL.
The National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
We need Steve Sable to read that.
Yeah. If we get Steve Sable to do the intro to our podcast, I think we just run that every week, right?
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome. All right, 1974, Nolan Ryan. His pitches measured at a record 161 is that kilometers per hour?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why that's 100.4 miles an hour.
Yeah. The only reason I included that in the rundown is that nowadays it's common for guys to throw over 100.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody does.
I mean, have you seen this Paul Skeens fella?
I've heard of him. What's he throwing? 104?
He's throwing 100, but he's a starting pitcher too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's just really, really moving the ball. I mean, Chapman, when he was with the Reds as a closer, was hitting 102, 103 pretty regularly.
Yeah.
There's a kid, I believe he's with Seattle, or maybe he was with the Angels. The Mets played him recently, where he's just putting dots on the outside of the corner at 103.
Yeah.
That's just
not fair.
Impossible. 1985, New York Met pitcher Dwight Gooden becomes the first NL pitcher to strike out 200-plus in his first 2 seasons.
I put that in there for you.
I appreciate that. Dwight Gooden, yeah, good pitcher. Very good pitcher. Still doing he did autographs this weekend at Citi Field.
Now remind me, he's sobered up and cleaned up, yes or no? It's Strawberry. Is it Darryl Strawberry that's –
Strawberry sobered up and cleaned up and runs a recovery center in Florida now.
Doc Gooden who's had some issues still.
He's on again, off again.
Okay.
Sometimes he doesn't show up for things.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. 1994, Vuani Bungu. Did I get that right?
Vuyani, maybe.
Vuyani Bungu. The South African junior featherweight wins the IBF World Boxing title. Do you ever get into boxing much?
No.
Have you ever done a pay-per-view fight before at your house?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I remember where I was when I heard Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas.
Okay.
But I wasn't watching the fight.
You ever do a UFC fight pay-per-view or anything like that?
I can't stand the MMA stuff.
Really? The
brutality of it is just too much for me.
I did it once, and I had a bunch of guys over. A lot of fun. But it was on so late.
Oh, yeah. They always start at like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was 2 a.m. before it ended. I was like, guys, I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's no way the current version of John Sloat.
No. This was a much younger, much more vibrant version of John Sloat. 2004, Ethiopian runners Kenensia Bekele, I don't know if I got that right, and Seleshi Sihini, I have no idea. You have no clue either. Go 1-2 in the 10,000 meter at the Athens Olympics.
Okay.
Yep. I knew you weren't jumping in, so
I have guesses, but yours are fine.
Yeah. Okay. You found them in error, but within the acceptable parameters of error there.
Within the margin of error. Yeah.
2016. Let's not start talking margin of error. We're coming into election season here. My goodness. 2016, South Korean golfer Inbi Park wins the inaugural Olympic women's individual gold with a final score of 16 under in Rio de Janeiro. Lydia Ko, New Zealand, 11 under par. Shan Shen Fen, China, 10 under par.
Okay.
Who do you like, Doc?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've done a decent bit of Nolan Ryan.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not inclined to go with Doc Gooden. I don't know.
I feel like we've done Doc before.
Yep. So that leaves us with a South African boxer, some Ethiopian runners, a South Korean golfer, or just the creation of the NFL.
I like Jim Thorpe.
Yeah, I do too.
He's featured prominently at the Football Hall of Fame. Have you ever done the Football Hall of Fame?
I have.
The NFL?
Shockingly,
that would be a fun VNS road trip if we did like a listener event at the Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah, I'll get our people on that right away.
I mean, maybe we just rent out the rotund. What do you call that thing where they have all the busts? Sort of that.
Yeah, I know.
Circular room where they have all the football busts, and we just record right there in the middle.
Yeah,
we just rent it out for the day.
That's within our budget. Yeah.
We would need some sort of benefactor to come along to pay for that, but
maybe Zimmer Biomet would want to.
Maybe ZB wants to sponsor the show.
The Canton, that's relatively close to. Isn't Goodyear is in that area, right?
Akron, yeah.
So
maybe we get Goodyear to sponsor it.
Yeah. I mean, once they hear our soon to be inked partnership with Zimmer Biomet, they're going to be like, "Whoa, hey, we got to get in."
Well, maybe they sponsor our travel out there. We go on Goodyear tires. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd be up for that. So you want to go with Jim Thorpe in the NFL?
I do.
All right. One thing you liked.
I am going to mention the sermon from Sunday at church. Our children's director and dear friend,
friend of the podcast,
friend of the regular listener, I think.
He and his wife,
did an excellent job preaching on Sunday.
He did.
Clear points, good illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke confidently,
and
yet was himself.
Yes.
Also, so some great Pilgrim's Progress references in there.
That warms my wife's heart.
I thought of your wife. I was like, well, he's going to the children's version here. I wonder if that's going to be seen as acceptable.
No.
But worked in Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
It made sense.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very much him. Still his personality. But, very good. So that's an excellent choice.
I'm not sure you've ever said that about one of my one things.
What?
Yeah,
that
it was an excellent choice.
Come on.
Here we are, 242
I don't think that's true.
Episodes in.
I don't think that's
outside of maybe getting married.
Okay. I think that's a little hyperbole.
It's pronounced hyperbole.
Okay. I'm going to go with a book that I finished this weekend. It's by what's his first name? It's Richard Lintz. Identity and Idolatry.
Okay, I was wondering what Lintz was. I thought it was a typo.
Nope. It's a book in the New Studies in Biblical Theology series.
Nice.
A very interesting discussion of the image of God, what that means, and how idolatry inverts the image of God in humanity. So very interesting. Worth checking out. The reason I picked to read it is Teaching Exploring the Bible coming up in Fall B. And I do the plenary lecture on Genesis 1 and 2. And so I thought this would be good to read and see if I can add some things in, tweak some things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it didn't disappoint in that sense. So that is my one thing I liked. All right, John, we have talked the New York Football Jets. We have talked how people feel about the church going negative.
We skewed negative.
We have talked about Jim Thorpe as the president of what eventually became the National Football League. We have talked about a sermon from our good friend Jordan in Indiana. And we talked about a book that I finished, Identity and Idolatry. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.